Okay, this is the MSXL Tennessee layout. I'm just going to get my thoughts on video so I can post it up for the teams I'm playing with, and then after the event I'll post it up just on my channel. So first thing you see is that just the two pins at home, and you see a bunch of big bunkers on the sidelines near the 50s. So it's probably going to be a faster field. After looking at it, it reminds me of a field that the NXL would put out, either for the U.S. League or the European League. How they've trended kind of to have faster fields, and I think this one is going to be pretty fast. You've either got to be small and be able to hide in a pin, or be aggressive and push up the sides. So I usually start with what key bunkers I see, and I'm thinking that basically the 50 on each side is going to be the key bunker. On the snake side, I think you're going to be able to run to the snake off the break most of the time, and if you get into the snake, you're most likely going to be able to crawl up to the snake 2 pretty easy. But there is a big gap going from the snake 2 to the snake 50. So I think a lot of that lane's going to be watched all the time. Having somebody in snake 2 to kind of threaten to get through that gap, would be a good thing. But I think how this field is probably going to play is people take ground on the snake side, and then try and little by little push up the Dorito side. Once the gun shifts back over to the Dorito side, then the snake guy can make the move into the 50 and get some kills from there. On the Dorito side, there are some good lanes. If if the guy's going to be shooting from either pin or right at the start box, they can shoot before the Dorito Aztec. Let's see. This guy can shoot this lane for either the corner or the tower, and he can also get some paint on the outside of the tower there. Okay, if the guy playing this other pin shoots upfield, he could shoot right here as well. So if you're running out to the Dorito side, you're either going to hope that guy isn't shooting this way, or just hope that you can make it through there. I think there is a chance this guy is going to be watching the snake side off the break sometimes, because if you step out and shoot basically right over top of this mini wall, you can either hit somebody diving into the snake in front of the tall cake there, or if you want to shoot just a little bit wider, and think either they're going around the tall cake or they're going to the corner, he might be shooting that way. So in which case there's not a whole lot of shots that can hit you on the D side. You could take risks, especially if you're scouting and seeing where they're shooting off the break. Now the other pin can shoot across field too. I think if they get their gun up quick, they can get this lane and make it hard to get to that tall cake. If you're going straight there, you're probably gonna have to dive, or if that's somebody that's going to the corner or trying to go to the snake, that lane could potentially hit them some of the time at least. And then I think shooting back at the pins, since people are going to be running, there's a lot of spots you have to run to. Since you don't think you want to try not to get stuck in the pins. That doesn't leave a whole lot of guns to shoot back at the shooters that are in the pins, but you definitely can shoot right back. And let's say that we're trying to pinch out this snake pin. If they're sitting there, this guy can shoot on either side of his pin over there, and this guy just wraps around and shoots up there. You can probably do that on either side. You might have to get wider on the Dorito side to shoot it, but you can definitely shoot back at the pins as well, and that will come into play. If you are risking a body that you want to make sure he makes it alive, you can kind of protect him by wrapping around and shooting back at the pin. Let's say that you're trying to make it all the way to the snake 50, or you just want to make sure that your guy makes it alive to the snake. Then you shoot back at the pin that could be shooting that way, or you wrap around and shoot up at that the near side pin that could be shooting upfield for it. But we talked about the key bunkers, and it's always a pretty important conversation to know which bunkers can stop people from getting in the key bunkers. Not after the break, but once the game actually does start to kind of settle in. So this main gap right here, if you're trying to cross from snake 2 to the snake 50, this mini wall, can see that whole thing, and it is kind of tricky because even though there is a beam there, I think a lot of the times they're going to try to make a bump to it. If there is no body in your mirror, let's say you're in the snake 2. If there is nobody in your mirror or the mini wall on the other side, then you can probably use the beam to crawl up and bounce over. But if there is a mini wall shooting that gap, then you probably just want to fight him, and especially if there's your mirror, you want to get gun dominance on them, check off the inside, and then bump to make the move. On the other side, let's see, other people that can see that, the tower can definitely shoot people trying to wrap that snake 2. They're not going to be able to see if you crawl and make the jump over. I mean, there is a bit that they can see, but if you crawl up there and jump over, they can't really see you. As you get up the field on the Dorito side, you can see that gap too. But I think those are the main two spots that are going to be watching that lane. For the Dorito side, I think really getting past the tower is going to be the last hard move. Once you get into this little Dorito, because the brick in front of you blocks out so much, it's probably easy enough to pick either the inside or the outside to get up to the brick. So we're going to focus on who can keep this gap locked down. And that is the snake 2. The tall cake here can shoot this gap pretty well, so if they haven't made it out to this tower yet, having that guy watch that way could stop the D side. But once they do get in the tower, you probably want to be in the snake 2 to keep them from getting up there. The mini wall, there's you can kind of shoot that way, but if they get low, they can hide from you behind these pins. I think maybe the snake corner, if I remember right, has that shot as well. Not much of one. But then also you're gonna have, if there is a Dorito corner, they're probably gonna be looking right at that. Even if you're in the tower and you step out wide, you can see down the tape as well. So moving up the D side is kind of a combination of, do you have dominance on the tape, and if there's if you do, or if there's not anybody there, is there a snake 2? Alright, and if there's not, you can probably move up and get into the little Dorito and into the 50 pretty easy. Let's see. Okay. The center, I don't think there's going to be a lot of use of getting in these Doritos. Seems like you're going to get pinched out. The same thing with this can, the mini wall, the 2 cakes, that Aztec. I don't think those are going to be played a lot. Maybe a little bit, towards the end of the game. But I think as far as the center goes, they're probably going to be in this tower. They're probably going to be in this mini wall looking snake way. Other than that, the guys on the Dorito side are probably going to be looking heads up, trying to move down the field. And the guys on the snake side, if they're in either snake 2 or this tall cake here, they're probably looking inside because they're one of the only ones that can watch the D side. Other than that, the snake corner is probably going to be looking either down the tape or kind of on the inside of their bunkers, shooting up here, trying to help whoever's in front of them move up. So let me talk about some plays. Okay, we'll start off with just like a base play. I do think people are gonna use the pins at the start, but I think people are also going to try to take the snake a lot of the time and just crawl right up to the snake 2, whether that's in front of the cake or around it. I think a lot of people are going to use this pin to get those shots across field off the break, and then he'll probably fill up into the mini wall as long as the snake player made it alive. If he didn't make it alive, he'd probably try to make it out into the snake this way, but if that guy's alive, he's probably going to go up to this mini wall and watch that snake gap right there, snake 2 to snake 3. I think the snake 2 guy, once he gets in there, should immediately look inside to lock down those kind of initial movements on the Dorito side until the rest of the team gets into position to do that. And maybe if he gets in there really quick, he might be able to kill somebody out of the the insert spots or the pin on the Dorito side too. Okay, other guys on the break for a base play. I think this Dorito corner is a really good bunker because you can see down the tape. Not like down the tape, but you can see kind of through this alleyway, and plus it's really protected from the snake from these towers and the can over here. You can live in that Dorito corner a long time. So I think that's a pretty good bunker to make sure you get to off the break and just kind of play heads up. Okay, that leaves 2 other guys that I think are going to use this pin. Yeah, they might not delay, but I think a lot of the times they will. One guy at least to shoot the snake side. And maybe this other guy is shooting, maybe he's wrapping around trying to shoot up the middle at a pin. He might be ghosting out a little bit more, shooting up this way, trying to work his way to the Dorito Aztec here. Okay. And he's probably going to be the one that is looking to make moves over here. And then the other guy in the pin, even though I don't like this tower a whole lot, there's not a whole lot of other places to go to. You can't do a whole lot on the Dorito side except for either trapping them in if they got shot wide. You can see right here, you can see this lane kind of shooting over that Aztec. So you can watch here, you can watch here. If they haven't gotten out wide, or if they have gotten out wide, then you're just kind of shooting for people trying to fill out to be a support player behind their front guy. I think most of the time you're gonna be looking inside, helping the mini wall, just to watch that snake gap. So that's kind of the base play. As a kind of contingency plan here, if you do lose the Dorito corner, then it doesn't really change a whole lot. This guy's just going to have to make sure he can either fill back out to the Dorito corner, or he can fill somewhere that he can watch down the tape. If we lose the snake guy, this mini wall is going to have to be the one on the snake side. Either hopefully you see that the guy gets shot off the break if he does, and you don't go to that mini wall and you get out to a spot where you can fill in easier. Another thing about being a guy that fills into the snake side if your front guy gets shot is off the break it's pretty easy to crawl past this spot and get in the snake too, but if they get set up where I think like there's a few spots, like especially this Dorito tower, that can keep you stuck in the snake one, right? And there's not a lot you can do from there. I'm just saying that if you are trying to make moves into the snake later, you might even want to wait for a move where you can bypass the snake one, or just make sure that you don't get stuck in the snake one. So this base play is taking ground on the snake side, but really trying to push up the Dorito side. If for some reason, like maybe we get a guy shot out on their side, on the snake side, switching to kind of push down the snake more might be a good idea. Like instead of just these guys watching the lanes and this guy watching crossfield, maybe you want both of these guys heads up to try and take advantage of, shooting a guy off their side and having a wider advantage. So it's kind of a base play. Let's see if I've got another one here that I like a lot. I drew some up beforehand and took some pictures of them. I think you want to play where you're trying to take a lot of ground on the Dorito side, or trying to take a lot of ground on the snake side. But let's do this one. So this one is more of a snake push. Not necessarily off the break, but you're trying to get guys in position. So somebody in the snake corner and the snake one, trying to get two guys on the tape in position to where they can help each other make it through that difficult gap right there. So those two guys off the break, looking downfield. Trying to wrap, put whoever they need in, and get up to that 50. Another guy starting out probably in the pin and bouncing over to the tall cake. So he's going to be one that's going to get some break shots to the Dorito side, and then once he gets in the pin, helping stop some movement on the Dorito side. Other guys on the Dorito side, I think, since we have three guys going over here, you want to send somebody to that Dorito corner. It's kind of like the anchor spot on the field that can be able to watch down the outside of the Doritos. Your other guy would be playing this pin at first to get shots off the break at the snake side. And he's going to fill out either to the Aztec or the tower. I'm thinking probably the tower, just because you don't have the mini wall in this play watching that gap. You need somebody else that can keep them from moving up on the snake side and matching us. So that'd be more of a snake push play, or on that one. If we lose the Dorito corner, this guy's probably going to have to fill out somewhere he can see down the tape. If we lose the snake 2 or the feeder, the snake corner guy is probably just going to fill into one of those positions. Another thing I didn't talk about earlier is these two tall cakes. I bet they're going to get pinched out pretty easy. So I'm kind of a little bit worried to send people over there because they can take a lot of heat from all of these spots on the Dorito side, plus kind of down the tape. So they're going to have to be able to get tight in those spots. I think they can both shoot a lot, but you're risking getting trapped in those and getting pinched out. And then if let's say we shoot their wide guy on the Dorito side, if we have the advantage on the Dorito side, instead of trying to push down the snake side, we could switch the tower guy to the Dorito 1 and to the Aztec and try and get two guys working together to work their way up the Dorito side. Alright, any other ones? I think that'll be good for now. I mean, yeah, I haven't had a whole lot of time to think about this video since the layout just came out a couple hours ago. So yeah, that'll do it for now.